Hi, my name is Belle Van Der Woodsen, and I'm a 3D artist who specialized in architectural visualization. In this video, I'm going to show you how to set up cameras. So here you can already see the final image, and we're going to set up a camera which should be quite similar to this one. So I use a physical camera, and then because this is going to be a one-point perspective, I just make sure this is right in the center. Then we bring the camera in here. Make sure this is the camera shot as well. So let's bring the camera up. So to change a few things, this is completely out of focus. We don't really need that, so we just switch this to like 11. So now this is quite clear. 120 millimeters is also not right for the shot, so it's like a vignette shot. We want this to be like a normal view, and we just use 35 millimeters for that. So this looks already quite nice. And then what I want to have this line exactly in the middle. So just take that, isolate it, and I really make sure that this is just here. This also looks wrong. Let's put it to 0. This already looks nice. Let's check our ratio. That looks a bit high to me. But that's actually fine. Okay. Just bring this forward. So yes, that's what we needed. We just needed a slight shift in the vertical. That was just 5%. And then we bring the camera up, and now we get a nice foreground, because I didn't really want to show those chairs in here. You don't see too much of the top part. Yeah, you can see everything quite clear. And this is basically it. This is the camera for the main shot, but I thought, okay, I'm also showing the second shot for the kitchen. So we just copy this. Switch of the first one, so you don't get confused. Second one, and let's just move this here. This is going to be slightly from the side. I also need to change that ratio. That's gonna be 1,200 and 6,000 here. You also need to change that focal length. This should be 50. And then we just swing this around. It's quite nice to see those chairs actually. You don't need to reveal everything in one view. It's nice to have a second one. So it's very easy when you're basically trying to find a nice composition and camera. I think the easiest way is really to just click that middle mouse button and, adjust it how you feel it's right. You don't need the depth of field here. It's just a bit annoying when you work with the composition, so yeah. So I would go with something like this. And here on the side we've got this cupboard here. You can either show it or not show it. It's up to you. I think it's actually nice if we show it a bit. So we get to see the chair, we get to see those elements here. We have that little element. So we've got a lot that we can actually look at. And yes, just an additional view for that other one. There are so many options, that you can figure out in that space, even though it's not that much or not such a huge space. But yeah. So in this tutorial, I'm going to show you how I set up my lights. Here we can already see the final image and also the light mix. And we can see all the lights in here. They're all set to 1. I really try to get my lights perfect in 3D. Sometimes afterwards I change something in the light mix, but then I would also push it back. So there should always be that value of 1. I do this for one reason, because if you push it back to the scene, your render will be definitely more clear of noise. So yeah, it's just a habit that I have, because sometimes it's just noisy when you switch those light mix values around. But yeah, just push it back to the scene and then it's gonna be fine. Now we will have a look into those lights. So here we've got the scene, and I put all my lights in that light layer over here. Here we've got those spotlights. I've already set this up in the modeling tutorial. So here we've got a V-Ray IS light, and we've got a file for that IS as well. I can show you what I use. This is number 5. So this is this light here. Yeah, it's just like a personal preference. I don't like it when that part of the image or that part of the light is too bright. So if it burns out like this, it's just not very nice. Usually the clients complain about it anyway, so I just go with 5, and most of the time I use the same time always. Yeah, just very comfortable using that one. And yeah, what else did I change? To be honest, not that much. I changed this color mode to temperature, because then I can just easily say color temperature is 3500. I try to use realistic values, and it gives me a warm light. And yeah, here intensity type is lumen, intensity value is 900. That works perfectly fine. So that's the same value for all those lights. Then here I've got a strip light. This is a normal V-Ray light, and this is just a plain light. It's temperature mode as well. 3500. Multiply here is 30. And here didn't choose any particular unit. This is just default, but you can use something else as well. Then over here on that wall, we've got another light. This is another V-Ray light. It's a sphere. Here I've got radiant power watts. That's what I usually choose. And temperature is 3500. Multiply here is 1. And this actually has a target, so that it doesn't just go like this. I just wanted to target it so the light has like a nice angle to it. Then in the living room, I also have a floor lamp that has a light bulb, and what I did, I just got this V-Ray light in here. This is a sphere light, same color temperature as I always use. And then we've got the main light that actually illuminates our scene the most, and this is the sun. So I always use a daylight system, because it's just very easy to let it wander around. So yeah, it's just easy to say, you know, how does it look at 3 p.m.? How does it look at 10 a.m.? It's just something I like to do. I mean, obviously you can do this manually, but yeah, for me this is just the easy way of doing it. So this is a V-Ray sun. It's very easy setup. I've changed the size here. I've set this to 5, so it gets some very nice and soft shadows. And this is already it. There's nothing special in the sun. You can also look into my environment slot. I've got a V-Ray sky in here. And in this case, because we're using a physical camera, I also have the physical camera exposure control on. And that's it. This is very easy lighting setup, and there are no hidden tricks or anything. I try to set this up as it would be in reality, so the light is coming from the sun, and then I've got all those lights in here, but it's really not that many lights, and I didn't use any like fake lights. I'm not a big fan of that. Sometimes you have to use it, but I think if you think about your lighting setup in the beginning, then you really won't use any fake lights, and yeah, it just achieves a more realistic approach of lighting, to be honest. So yeah, if we go back now to that image, then we can see we can achieve a very nice result of just a few lights, no fake lights, and I hope this is helpful. I'm going to show you in this tutorial how I set up my materials. Here we can already see that final render. Now I'm going to show you how I do my marble, this white material here in the cupboards, my metals, the wall and ceiling material, and maybe a couple of more. So let's check it out. So here we can see the scene. This is the material editor. I always use the slate material editor because I can just see everything what I do. What I try to do is I have this standard V-Ray material that I've set up as a base for all my materials. So I use this quite a lot. It makes my life very easy. I've got just a color here, color map, then color correction. That color map I usually replace with like a bitmap or something. And then here I've got values for the glossiness, it's 0.5, and that's it for now. So it's very basic material, but I've used this, for example, when I make my marble material. I don't want to plug in all those things all the time, so I just take this and then adjust things to it. So let's check out this marble. So yeah, so you can see here it's exactly the same. We've got the bitmap here. That bitmap, let's have a look. So this is that marble texture. It's from Caesar stones, and they provide really nice textures. Then I've got a color correction in here, but I didn't change anything in here, so you can just double check. Everything is exactly the same. And then here glossiness is 0.8. That's all I've changed. And it creates a really nice marble material, so no need to make things more complicated. Here I've got my standard brass material. So we've got a map in here. Let's check this out. This is fingerprints and a couple of scratches. Color correction, I also didn't change anything in here. There's no need to correct that map. And then let's have a look into the actual material. So I have a color in here for the reflection. It's like a brown, gold. So yeah, looks very normal. Glossiness, I've set to 0.85. Then here we've got Fresnel reflections, and I set Fresnel IR to 50. That's it. Very simple again. That wall lamp here has almost the same material, but just almost. So I believe I used this as a base, and then all I did was just using a different bitmap here. Let's have a look. It's just a bitmap that will create this brushed metal effect. Color correction didn't change anything here. And then in the actual metal, I've changed that color a bit, less saturated. Glossiness is 0.85 like before. Fresnel IR is 50 as well. So this is basically just the same thing. And yeah, it creates a really nice metal again. Then let's have a look at this white cupboard. So here we've got a diffuse color here. This is like a creamy kind of color. Then glossiness 0.8, and we have this very nice effect here, which is produced by a noise map. So that noise is set to 1, and yeah, it's just a bit of irregularity in that material. Then we've got a wall material here. So here we've got a violet color here. This is like, yeah, a very nice warm color. And then we've got up here as well. Let's have a look. So yeah, this is just for the wall material so that it doesn't look too flat. Very subtle difference in the texture. So we can just see this here a bit in the reflection. In that rendering it's actually not too visible, but I know it's there. And here we can have a look. I was turning down that reflection to gray. Glossiness here is 1, so it really just reflects on that white parts of it. And this is it. Very simple again. Then we also have the ceiling. So let's check this out here. Ceiling material is here. We have the same map as from the walls, as reflection glossiness, but then we also have a bump, and you can see that bump map here. So it's like a concrete map, which works really nice for ceilings. And all we have in here is just a white diffuse color. Reflection is also turned down to like a gray. Glossiness here is 1. And yeah, we get this very nice looking ceiling. Next material I want to show you is my floor. So here we've got that floor material. I'm using those textures from CG Source. They look like this. I really recommend using those ones because I think it's just the best floor textures that are available, and they really provide a bunch of them, so that's perfect. I use a multi-texture for that. I just bring in all those maps, and then I set the random gamma to 0.1. And this is already it. I didn't change more. Then I know I made some changes to that color correction. I was desaturating it a bit, so almost 30%. And then I also set the gamma to 0.7 so that material gets a bit darker. We've got that same multi-texture in the reflection map. I just color correct this as well. I desaturated completely and I set the gamma to 3. And here we have the map that I use a lot. It's like fingerprints and those scratches. So I put this in the reflection glossiness and then creates this really nice reflection. Let's have a look in that material here. The reflection here is white, glossiness is 0.5. Then I set the glossiness to 30% so it doesn't get too glossy, because I really wanted to create a floor that looks very natural and not over glossy. And I think in the main render, in its second image from that series, you can actually see that the floor looks really, really great. Yeah, I don't use bump because I don't really like to see scratches or something like this, even if it's maybe a bit more realistic. But if this is like a new flat, then it's just better to have this very nice and new looking, basically. Yeah, those are my main materials that I've created. And we've got a couple of props. So let's just look at one of those. So actually, we've got some eggs here. Let's look at one of those eggs. Because I made a custom egg material. So this was the image I was using. It came from a bigger egg image with a couple of eggs on it, but I know that this is just very small, so I thought this would probably be good enough. And it has those brown dots I was really keen on having, because eggs are just not perfectly brown. They actually have some spots and dots on them, so I just was cutting this in Photoshop, and it perfectly works here. So I also have a V-Ray randomization here. I was using that stochastic tiling and blend mode 0.05. Then I have a noise in the bump map, which is size 10. Then another noise in the reflection glossiness, which is size 5. And here I was just using glossiness of 0.7. And that's it. It looks a bit odd here, but it turns out to be fine in the viewport. Yeah, I made another marble material for that. Little chopping board. Let's have a look. This is on my mind. So here we've got the chopping board. Here's that image for the marble. And we just plug this in, color correct this. I had to color correct this because it was a bit too dark, so I just said 1.3 is perfect. And then I've got a reflection map for that as well. Basically it's the same thing. And yeah, glossiness here is 0.7. Yeah, this is it. I also made a custom material for that really small object here. I think this is like a cup, or could be something else as well. So you can see that here. I was using my standard viewer material for that as well. This image again. This comes from a plate. So I just googled something like ceramic plate, I think, and this came up. And all I use is just that part in the middle. And yeah, I didn't color correct this at all. No. And yeah, I just put this in. And here we've got a glossiness of 0.75. And I also plug this in the bump map. But I mean, it looks nice here, but it's almost not visible, that bump, it's so small. That object, and this is it. Yeah, I also made some custom pages for this book. I didn't like what came with the original book, so I thought, okay, it's probably worth making my own material for this. So we can see one here. This is, I googled Autolenghi. Autolenghi is a really nice cook from the UK. I went on Amazon and then I got those pages. And yeah, I just photoshopped this both together, and then, because this is just one page here, I just cut this so that it's just using that page. I know that I was color correcting this here a bit. I had to make this darker, so 0.5, and then I also put some bump on it, but it's almost not visible. And here I'm just inverting those colors for that bump. Yeah, and honestly, there's really not that much magic to it. Let's see another marble. So here, this is also my standard material again. It's just one marble map. Looks like this. Color correction that I didn't change. And then I know that I made this one quite glossy, 0.8. Reflection is 50% in this case. And yeah, there's really not much magic. It's really very simple materials. Keeping it simple and easy, and then it's also very easy to change things afterwards. Not a big fan of those big layered materials or composite materials, and most of the time for what I do doesn't make sense anyways, so I just make it simple, and that works for me very, very well. In this tutorial I'm going to give you a few insights about how I do my composition for all the props I use. So here we're not going to work in 3D, we're actually just looking at that final image. And yeah, I think what we can say is that we have a few elements in here. We've got some foreground elements like this vase here, then we've got a book. We also have some lamps in the foreground, and then the midground, I want to say, is almost all those props here. And then we kind of, I would say, this is already our background, our third layer, because then the image ends, obviously. So we have 3 stages, the background here, the midground here, and then the foreground here. So when I started putting props into this image, I actually started with this element here, because this was empty and I kind of wanted to close this first. So I had the idea of bringing in a painting. This painting, it's very difficult to see, but this is two people walking at the beach. And as this apartment is in San Francisco, I thought it's nice to bring the beach in a bit more. So I wanted to center this painting. Then, because I don't like it if something's too centered, so it's nice to break things up a little. That's why I merged in this little cup and put it on the right hand side. On the left hand side, for me, this would be too much in the center, so I just wanted to have this empty. Then I was adding some books. I thought it was nice to give an idea about what kind of cooking books they like, so I brought in those books. And then I always try to have metals and glass in my scene. So that's for one reason. Metal reflects the light really nicely. So we always get in some more light into the scene. Because if this would be another book, for example, then we wouldn't get those hints of light. So I brought those one in, and those props, it was really important for me that they overlap. I really like overlapping. It just gives you a sense of depth for your image. So you know this piece here is standing in front of the bigger one. After that, I started to play with the midground. I was adding this pot here, and for me it was really important that this shape here leads you to the center of the image. So this is what your eye does, it goes into there. Then I also added those tools here. I was playing around with that size in the beginning, but I ended up breaking this line here with those tools, so they had to be taller. Therefore, I couldn't push this back. So yeah, got some really nice tools here that break up this very hard line here. Then I moved over to the right hand side, and I wanted to have a kitchen chopping board. And first this was actually lying on the surface, but it didn't really make sense for me. Then I decided to just, lift it up, lean it against this marble, and it works. Then I added those little pieces for like vinegar or oil. And then I found this really cool X that made sense for me to add this here in that empty corner. After that, I added those props here. This is 2, and this is 2 here, so I kind of like this. This is a bit repetitive, having 2 things. I think it's really nice for the eyes. It wouldn't really make sense for me if this was missing or if this was missing. So yeah, it's just how it turned out. And you look at things, sometimes you go and, you hide things, and then you look at it for like a minute, and maybe you look back to something else, and then you just realize it has to be 2 or it has to be 1. So this is how you can easily find out if you like your composition. And then afterwards, in the very end, I was actually adding the foreground. So The foreground for me was important because this is just very empty here. And I think it needed something. It definitely needed something tall. That's why I've added this very tall vase. And also this book has a bit of a story. This is an ottolenghi recipe, so maybe this person really likes ottolenghi. And yeah, this is just also a prop that should lead your eye into the image. If it was straight, then it kind of makes your eye stop. That's why it's a bit, that's why it's lying around like this. And in general, if I look at the image, I was creating a very special kind of composition. I'm going to show you what I mean. So, here, I always try to create a triangle composition. This is basically what I mean. So this type of composition is going to make your eye wander. So I think it starts around here and then it slowly moves up and moves back down and moves back. But it doesn't do a weird thing where your eyes go everywhere and you don't know where to look at. I think that this kind of composition helps you to focus your eyes, and you can kind of direct where you want them to go. So that's why I said this is really important for me, that this shape is like this, because some people might put this the other way around, but this would be in conflict with that triangle composition. So always try to be aware what your shapes do, because at the end this is a 2D image and it's really important that you create a sense of direction with your props, if I can say it like this. And yeah, I don't know if you would have seen this as a triangle composition, maybe not. And obviously this is a 1-point perspective, so it's even more important to create depth especially with props. So it's important that we have a foreground element, and then we've got like a midground element as well, and then a background element. I most of the time start with creating the background elements, like those ones, and then I move to the midground, and then I move to the foreground. And this is just how I prefer to do it, but it's totally up to you. I wouldn't recommend jumping in between different ground levels. I think this can be very confusing for yourself, but if it works for you, then it works for you. So this is all I want to say. Yeah, so this is very simple composition. I'm not a big fan of rules or anything. Don't really use the golden section or anything like this, but I use the triangle composition a lot. For me, this is very helpful, especially in interiors. And yeah, I hope it's helpful for you as well. And I also hope that you enjoyed this tutorial. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the YouTube channel and stay tuned for new videos.